Ladies and gentlemen, good day. My name is Fons. I work for the Netherlands Innovation Network in China, and today I'll give you a short presentation about the hydrogen situation in the Netherlands. So today I'll talk a little bit about our network and what we do in China. I'll mention something about the Netherlands hydrogen strategy of the Dutch government, and I'll mention briefly some of the Dutch hydrogen projects. So to start off, our Netherlands Innovation Network is spread over 16 countries and 24 cities. Within China, we have a team of 9 people, two based in Guangzhou, 3 based in Shanghai, and 4 based in Beijing. So what we do is we try to strengthen the innovation capacity for Dutch companies, research institutes, and public bodies through knowledge-intensive and international cooperation. So we try to inform Dutch organizations about international trends and developments in the innovation domain. Our target groups are, of course, research and development, innovation-intensive companies, and research-performing organizations such as knowledge institutes and universities, and also relevant government bodies. So our focus is on technology-driven innovation, science and technology development, and all the top sectors in China and the Netherlands. And what these top sectors are, I will come back to you in a moment. But first, let's have a look at the Netherlands. So when you think of the Netherlands, I guess many of you think of this, so the flower fields and windmills. But of course, the Netherlands is much more than that. So let's have a quick look at the global ranking for countries. So what you can see is a map of the Netherlands and some bars with the rankings. So at the top, you can see the total area. So of all the countries in the world, the Netherlands ranks 131st of countries based on their size, square kilometers. Then we have the population of all the countries in the world. We rank number 65th. Because our population is quite small, it's even less than the population of Shanghai. Then in terms of GDP, we are number 18 in the world. So we're quite rich. And from here, the numbers keep getting better and better. So if you look at the World Happiness Report in 2018, the Netherlands was 6th. There is the World Competitive Index, also in 2018. The Netherlands ranked 5th. And for the Global Innovation Index, also 2018, the Netherlands ranked 2nd. And it is this Global Innovation Index that I would like to go a little bit more in depth. So what is this Global Innovation Index? Well, it's a report that every year made by the Cornell SC Johnson College of Business, WIPO, and the INSEAD Business School for the World. They make this report every year based on how many publications, research publications a country produced, how much money it spends on R&D, etc., etc. So then in this report, every year, there are a lot of numbers. And I won't go through all of these numbers, but let me pick out some numbers for you to make it easier. So you can see, like I mentioned before, the Netherlands is 2nd in 2018. And China was a little bit lower on the rank, 17th. But last year, China was already higher, and I'm sure that China will keep growing and might be on the same level very soon. Now, this is just the ranking, but let's look at some more specific numbers. So, for example, number of universities. So, top 200 universities. The Netherlands has 13 universities in the top 200 of the world's best universities. Doesn't sound like much, but if you realize that the Netherlands only has 13 top universities and all of them are in the world top 200, that's still quite an achievement. Also, if you look on the table on the right, you can see how much money a country spends on R&D. So the Netherlands doesn't spend that much. We're ranked 16th and we spend about 2% of our GDP. But even with such a low amount of R&D spending, we still managed to get second on the innovation list, which is also quite an achievement. Now, why is this? Well, one of the reasons might very well be the triple helix. So there was this professor from America and from University of Amsterdam who wrote this book about the triple helix, where they explain how governments, knowledge institutes and universities and companies work together to make the country, the university and the business life more stronger for a global knowledge economy. And I'll come back to this triple helix in a moment with some more clear examples. But there are, of course, already many companies in the Netherlands who have benefited from this good triple helix model in the Netherlands. So remember I mentioned word top sectors before, that we focus on the top sectors. Well, in the Netherlands there are 9 top sectors set out by the Dutch government. And the one that we're focusing on today is, of course, hydrogen, and hydrogen is in the chemical industry. So hydrogen for the Netherlands is important, and there have been several important milestones in the recent history. But let me focus on the main ones for the past year. So in June 2019, there's the climate agreement that by 2030 we would reduce carbon emissions by 50%, and by 2050 we would be completely carbon neutral. Well, how to achieve this? One of the ways is to use hydrogen. It's not the only way, but definitely one of the ways. So in January 2020, the Netherlands released the innovation roadmap for hydrogen and the hydrogen for energy transition. Apologies. And in March 2020, the government released the government strategy on hydrogen. And I won't go too much into depth at this point, but I'll share with you the links where you can download these documents at the end of my presentation. So why does the Netherlands have so much interest in hydrogen? Well, first of all, there's excellent infrastructure, harbors, electricity and gas infrastructure, roads, railways, all very well connected within Europe. There's a high demand because of the energy intensive industry that's concentrated in 5 main industry clusters. Also, there's a huge potential for offshore wind on the North Sea. And then there's the excellent knowledge infrastructure with universities and research institutes and consultants. So I mentioned the infrastructure. And on this slide, you can see how well the gas pipelines are distributed and advanced in the Netherlands. So you can see they all start from the north because that's where the natural gas fields in the Netherlands are located. And then it spreads through all of the country. So because the natural gas fields are in the north of the Netherlands and the pipelines, they all start from there and are also connected with Scandinavia, it's maybe not a big surprise that that's also the region where the Hydrogen Valley is started. So this Hydrogen Valley is also funded by the European Union. And I'll show you a 2-minute video in a moment that will give you some more brief information on this project. But on this slide, you can already see there are hydrogen buses, there will be a hydrogen train, there are hydrogen refueling stations, there are offshore wind hydrogen production facilities, etc., etc. But first, let us have a quick look at this 2-minute video introduction of the Hydrogen Valley.
As we proceed towards a climate-neutral 2050, we are reaching the point where we put theory into practice, especially when it comes to hydrogen. So far, European efforts concerning hydrogen have been individual initiatives for the most part. The time has come for an integrated approach, to gather our best ideas and put them to work in an actual region. The European Union has identified the Northern Netherlands as Hydrogen Valley. That's not surprising. In one ride, you'll find everything you need for a green, hydrogen-based economy. Sustainable energy sources, generation, storage, transport, as well as applications in industry and applications in mobility and our day-to-day environment. This time, the project partners are not researchers, they are makers. They will make the hydrogen economy flow. To achieve this, The project comprises of 4 clusters and will be realized by the end of 2025. With the region's green power converted to hydrogen, we will be working on storage and infrastructure, making hydrogen a raw material for our industry, turning hydrogen into heat and power for residential areas. And it will give us mobility, green mobility. This sectoral integration is rarely seen. We are doing it, right in this valley. We are progressing on some 30 sub-projects we have prepared over the past 2 years, hand in hand with public and private parties. We're working hard to set an example for Europe to follow. Hydrogen Valley.
I think that sums it up quite nicely. And then, of course, it's not just in the north of the Netherlands, the Hydrogen Valley. But as you can see on this slide, actually the Netherlands has many, many plans and projects all towards 2050 to be carbon neutral. And then this slide doesn't even show all of the projects because these plans are being updated, things are being added, projects are being introduced. So there's really a lot of momentum for hydrogen in the Netherlands at the moment. Altogether, that by 2050, the Netherlands will be carbon neutral and the Netherlands will be the hydrogen backbone for Europe with green hydrogen production, but also because of the port of Rotterdam, we started with their project very recently to create green hydrogen themselves, but also to import hydrogen for the European market. And then they have the pipeline backbone spread through the Netherlands to Germany, to Scandinavia, and to Belgium, and from there to the rest of Europe. And then, of course, it's not only Dutch companies active within the Netherlands, also outside of the Netherlands. And one example that I'd like to give you with this is a project that's in my region of the Dutch consulate in Guangzhou. And that's SHV, who opened their first hydrogen refueling station last year in Guangzhou's Huangpu district. But to come back very briefly on the triple helix that I introduced earlier about knowledge institutes, universities, government, and companies working together, I think this Partners in Business program in the Netherlands is a good example. So what this is kind of like a task force, a joint task force where the government, companies, and knowledge institutes join together. And this year, a hydrogen PIB started in the Netherlands, focusing on China and the Netherlands. So what's interesting about this hydrogen PIB is that some of the big Dutch companies in hydrogen, not all of them, but some, have joined this PIB. And the PIB, they represent all of the supply chain of hydrogen. So as you can see on the slide, there's the hydrogen production. But for hydrogen production, you also need the governance and development. So we have KIA, the Regulation and Testing Institute company. We have Han University for research and development in that part. But then you also need the hydrogen processing. So you have the hydrogen compression, which does Hyatt. And then we have the fuel cell stacks technology, which is NetStack. And then, of course, you need the hydrogen applications as well. So you have domestic and transport. And transport is the field of HyMove. Now, of course, there's way too much information for me to explain regarding hydrogen in the Netherlands within 10-15 minutes. So I would really like to refer to you, in case you're interested, in a webinar that was finished a couple of days ago. But you can rewatch all the episodes, and the episodes had different topics from green production to science and technology, to the PIB introduction, as well as initiatives and opportunities within China. Also, like I mentioned, I will share links with the hydrogen strategy of the Netherlands and the hydrogen innovation strategy. Thank you very much for your attention. And if you would like to get in touch with me, with the PIB members, or other Dutch hydrogen projects, or universities, knowledge institutes working on hydrogen, please feel free to contact me. Thank you.